We are a new team. We didn't expect to be here already.
It is definitely TSM's chance of redemption.
사람들이 저희 보고 좀 어렵다고 많이 평가하더라고요. 근데 그 평가가 저희 팀이 있어서기 때문에
我觉得会压力其实挺大的，因为挺多人都会看着我们是小组第一嘛。
저희들이 가야 되는 목표는 여기에 있고 저희는 딱 이 바로 앞에 있는데 저희가 엄청나게 큰 문제를 해결해야 되는 건 아니에요.
이번이 마지막이라고 생각하고 도전을 했는데 이뤄져서 너무 좋아요.
我们队伍的粉丝们都希望我们队伍能在这比赛取得冠军。
Qualifying for Worlds was the biggest goal we had for this year, and we did it. We just want to perform for our teammates. We don't want to perform for anything else.
The hometown heroes strike first blood. Cloud9, they will take down the #1 team from the LMS.
Death gets himself 3 kills in 4 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Le Doc Coleman in Paris, France, where after just 1 day of competition, the 2015 League of Legends World Championships are in full swing. And as you can see, the fans are just as excited today as they were yesterday for another 6 full games of action. And just moments ago, Dyrus and TSM were readying up for the first game of the day. They'll be facing off against KT Rolster, who are also getting into gear at the last possible moment. Origin will follow them on stage, and there, of course, you see Aranea and Expeke going over last-minute strats. Here we see Koma and Marin. They'll be showing up a little bit later in the day, so just relaxing as of right now. Everyone's eyes are on the big prize, the Summoners Cup. And we've got another action-packed set of games coming your way today. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, joined on the analyst desk by Aiden Zyrene Moon today. Welcome.
Thank you. Hopefully my contributions are more than just a sexy turn at the telestrator today. I'll try my best.
I like to hear that. I like to hear that. We're shooting high today. Christopher Monte Cristo Michaels, good to have you back.
It's great to be back, and I'm just really excited about finally seeing those Group D games today for the first time.
Very much so. And, of course, Jacob Yamato Cannon Mebdi looking sharp, my friend.
Battle cruiser operation, huh?
There it is. Well, our 16 teams from around the globe continue to fight for position today as the world's group stage unfolds. Yesterday's opening day left us with a lot to talk about with some strong showings across the field of teams. First up, we had Fnatic with a decisive win over the LPL's Invictus Gaming.
I would say it was very decisive, but IG had such a poor performance. I think I wouldn't give Fnatic too much. Even though they looked strong, I wouldn't say they were super dominant.
But they did look prepared for their opponent. If we look at how they played the map, they were targeting the weak members, Kid and Kitties, constantly catching Kitties Thresh out. And that's a great way to defeat IG because we know that that is their weakest part of the map.
But we also talk about the inconsistencies of IG, where if Kakao is just going to farm all game, he did 888 damage on Skarner in that entire game, which is the lowest out of any jungler in summer in the world of 658 games.
I think it's also very fair to say
that not relevant.
It's I think it's very fair to say that IG's draft was very poor coming into this. I think that Skarner had no place blind picking it because Azir completely destroyed that. Paired with the Riven.
Which is, well, not a record you want to hold there as Kakao, but, to Monty's point about Fnatic, being prepared for the team that they're facing is, and getting that first win is all important here, especially as we're through the group stages with only 6 games determining whether or not you make it out. Next up, though, we had C9 upsetting AHQ to start 1-0.
Well, I think Yamato and I have to eat some crow on this one, obviously, for our predictions.
Otherwise, I was going to force it down your throats.
But this game in particular, C9, when we talked about how they could win, it was through the shot calling. They seemed to understand how to play their composition, and they sieged very well. That said, I'm still not convinced about C9 because Mountain decided that this would be a great time to play his first Rengar game from the entire summer season up until this point, and he was terrible. I mean, there's no nice way to put this. That was some abysmal Rengar play. They had to win their solo lanes in order to win that game. Otherwise, their lack of wave clear was going to be supremely punished. So that happened. It was a very quick win for C9, but I need to see more from C9 before I am truly convinced.
I feel like they helped everybody else out in the group, too, against AHQ. Ban Rek'Sai, ban Elise, pick a Lee Sin, and you might force him to pick that Rengar again. He does still have Gragas up his sleeve, but they also looked extremely confused by Veigar. They didn't seem to know what Event Horizon did.
Yeah.
I have to add that I was positively impressed. I'm just comparing this Cloud9 to the one that we had in Gauntlet, and I think there was some improvement there. I think they did a very good draft coming into AHQ, but AHQ, I was very disappointed. Very, very disappointed.
And with C9, yeah, I was very disappointed too. And with C9, I'm now wondering, because if we can compare this C9 to the Fnatic that came into MSI, in the playoffs for EU LCS during that spring season, they were doing all kinds of wacky stuff that didn't make sense. You know, the teleport smite top lane Lee Sin. They really didn't look good into MSI, but they adjusted and they look strong there. Is Cloud9 a similar story? That's my question going forward.
Well, it's clear they've put in some work during their boot camp. We're going to push us forward to Group C, where things are going mostly to chalk. EG, SKT starting off strong in dominating fashion. And if we move beyond that, there were some interesting trends from day one in pick ban. We had Mordekaiser, Lulu, Elise, Gangplank, and Darius all finding themselves in that 100% pick ban.
Yeah, I think that these are champions that are going to continue to be up there. But the one that I think should be up there as well is Fiora. I feel she's extremely powerful, but she kind of got through pick and bans and nobody went after her as much. I know base stats have been reduced, but she's still a huge powerhouse. We saw Marin take it and absolutely destroy a game in the mid game with some skirmishes. I think she's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I, for one, will represent Crumb's opinion, who's not on the desk, and he feels very similarly that Fiora is being underrepresented so far at Worlds.
I have to say, what I'm looking forward to is, like, in the playoffs, I think teams will potentially make these very hard trades coming in from the purple side, where, like, we will see all these OP champions come through simply because of the purple side. You get 2 picks. I'm excited for that because I don't think anyone has the courage to do it in the group stage because it's very scary in best-of-1 scenarios to just get dominated by, for example, a Fiora.
All right, well, with each team in Groups A, B, and C having played once, here's how they stack up. In Group A, North America's CounterLogic Gaming and Korea's Coup Tigers are 1-0 over Flash Wolves and Pain Gaming. Fnatic and Cloud9 are on top in Group B over the LPL's Invictus Gaming and AHQ from the LMS. And in Group C, SK Telecom and Edward Gaming bested Europe's H2K and international wildcard Bangkok Titans. Of course, with 42 games left to play in the group stage, there's still much to be decided and anything can happen. Now, the competition continues in just a few minutes between Korea's third seed, KT Rolster, and the North American LCS team, TSM, in today's first clash for dominance in Group D. Then the LPL's LGD will face Europe's Origin, and later today, the LMS's Flash Wolves will take on Korea's Coup Tigers.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that first matchup here, KT versus TSM. TSM people are saying, oh, they've boot camped a lot. What do they have now? But KT is a crazy team. I honestly think they're the second best team in Korea, even though they came out as the third seed.
You've spoken to some of the inconsistencies of KT, though, Monty.
Yeah, one thing that we have to remember about KT is, yes, they did have an 8-1 streak in best-of-3s to close out the season after they put Peekaboo on their starting roster. But over that 8-1 period where they only lost to SK Telecom, they also dropped games in best-of-3s to the 3 lowest-ranking teams in Korea. So I'm sort of the opinion that anything can happen with this team in a best-of-1 scenario, and if they don't get ahead early, they often don't get ahead at all.
I'm just trying to picture Someday versus Dyrus. And
man, that's
a
little too graphic.
I was going to say, you won't have to picture it for much longer. We're almost into game. Group B, of course, has the day off, so we'll see them on the Rift tomorrow. And throughout today's games, we'll be fielding your questions about the World's group stage, so hit us up with the hashtag AskTheDesk, and we'll see what you want to know a little bit later today. Now, before we kick it to the casters for Game 1, let's see how you guys are calling it. Irene, I got to start with you, KT Rolster or TSM?
I got to go with KT on this one. As much as I want to see Dyrus versus Someday, I think it's pretty much just going to be Someday the entire time because Dyrus is just going to be in the base dead.
This is a really interesting matchup for me because we probably have the biggest mismatch in favor of TSM in that mid lane, Nagne versus Bjergsen, but Peekaboo will gank mid lane as support at level 1, and so they put a lot of emphasis on getting Nagne ahead. TSM has to have a plan to shut down Peekaboo and score. SKT showed how to do it. Can they execute? I don't think so. I think it's KT, but I do believe that there is an upset potential here.
All right, finally, Yamato.
I don't think anyone but delusional TSM fans would pick TSM in this matchup.
Strong words, my friend. You had strong words about C9 yesterday, saying they were going to go 0-6 in groups off of the first day. You sure you want to be starting the day off with bold statements like that, my friend?
It's like maybe I'm doing North America a favor. Maybe I'm jinxing it all over the place.
There it is. All right, that's how we will take it. All right, well, the stage is set, and we're about to step inside the arena for Game 1. As we go, TSM's story has changed from a team that has dominated the North American region to a group that's looking to prove they are still a force to be reckoned with.
당연히 TSM이 지금 보여주고 있는 것보다는 훨씬 더 잘하는 팀이고 IM 이후로 저희들이 되게 스포트라이트로 되게 많이 받고 되게 많은 주목을 받았는데 그 이후로 저희들이 되게 소극적으로 플레이하기 시작한 것 같아요. 소극적으로 플레이하고 어떻게든 빨리 이기고 더 멋있게 이기는 게 아니라 어떻게든 그냥 지지 않는 방법으로 그런 방법으로 플레이 스타일이 변해갔고
In League of Legends, you have to constantly be putting in your best effort all the time. When you put like 90% or 80%, that's when you start getting complacent.
Professional League of Legends has come to Florida, and this week they will do battle in the first ever mid-season invitational.
27 kills in 25 minutes for EDG. Another kind of puzzling game from TSM.
그 MSI 이후로 저희들 플레이 스타일을 바꾸려고 했지만 이미 너무 저희 플레이 스타일은 이쪽에 있고 다른 나라 플레이 스타일은 이쪽에 있어가지고
There's going to be a ton of questions raised back in North America and within the TSM camps about why this tournament went so poorly.
For our summer split, we had a really poor showing. I think we overall played really poorly. And he had to come in, he had to start giving us a push.
When Andy steps in and Andy helps out, everyone takes it a bit more seriously. There's a lot more pressure on it. And playing versus CLG at Madison Square Garden, regardless of what anyone says, I'm pretty sure some of the players felt the pressure.
After losing to CLG, that gives me even more drive to do better. I want to show that just because we did lose against them, we still have a lot of potential, and with this bootcamp, we can be better than CLG, and we can be one of the best teams in the world.
After the group drawings, I don't think teams are expecting much from us. For the first time in our lives, like, we're underhyped. People everywhere are saying, oh, TSM's done for. If we do show up and if we do put in the work and we actually do make it out of our groups, like, no one can say anything to us.
I definitely feel like this is where we can redeem ourselves.
This is our time to show if we can really compete with the best.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the caster desk. We are here at the Season 5 World Championships. I am David Freak Turley, and calling these first three games with me are Eric Doa Longquist from the LCK and Martin DeFisio-Lunga from the European LCS. We got a bunch of regions covered here in the caster desk.
A little bit of everything, yeah.
Very diverse. It's good. It's good for this game.
Like Team SoloMid, we got some Danes in there. We have Korean, North American players.
That's true. Exactly.
We're basically TSM.
TSM of caster.
Yeah.
Let's
We're
wait
missing
until
Jack.
after this game to see if we want to be that or not. Let's wait. We have to be careful.
Oh, man. It's going to be fun. Either way, we've got a lot of great games coming up today. We're going to start with our first one. It's Korea's KT Rolster. Many believe them to be the number 2 team of the region, and Team SoloMid from the North American LCS, definitely the number 2 team from there as well. Now, guys, on the blue side, KT Rolster.
That's right. KT Rolster, guys, up in the top lane. Of course, it is Someday. In the jungle, Score, as always. In the mid lane, Nagne. At ADC, it is Arrow. And support, Peekaboo, their coach, Oh Chang-jong.
Meanwhile, on the red side, in this matchup, playing their first game of the World Championship, it's TSM. Dyrus up in the top lane, Santorin in the jungle, Bjergsen in mid, Wild Turtle in AD carry, Lustboy on support with Coach Loco Dogo, help with the picks and bans and all that. All right, so as we get ourselves into this game, I want to talk about first how these teams got there a little bit. I mentioned briefly KT considered to be the number 2 team. They are technically Korea's 3rd seed coming in here. They had gotten 2nd place in the summer split playoffs. Then because of their spring split, had to go through the gauntlet and the regional to get there anyway. And they did qualify pretty soundly through the regional qualifier.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they're looking very good now. Like you said, a lot of people, myself included, would consider KT to be the number 2 team in Korea right now, despite coming in as a 3rd seed. And KT has always been that team that's been on the outside looking in, right? So close to Worlds in 2013. Very close last year as well, too. They won the summer split in Korea, but then didn't get to go to Worlds. Now here they are, finally in the World Championship. It's a fantastic team. A lot of great stories with this organization.
One of the big reasons they are here at Worlds, of course, the jungle support synergy, Peekaboo and Score. We always talk about it. And it's one of the problems Team SoloMid has had basically since forever. Lost Boy and Centurion, what can they do together? If you do not shut down Peekaboo when he's moving around, you're in big trouble.
It's a big mismatch, that's for sure. And we are into picks and bans. KT versus TSM, Gnar, TF, and Gangplank. The early to hit the ban bench.
Yeah, so what we see so often now, I say so often, it's been 6 games, but what we see in this patch is on red side, you're almost forced to ban away these top tier picks. We have Mordekaiser, Lulu, and Gangplank. You can see Team SoloMid already with the first 2 bans. This means obviously for KT, they have like a third target ban they can aim for, or they can just pick the Mordekaiser, and therefore give Team SoloMid a chance to at least ban something outside of the top tier picks.
Well, Darius being one of the champions that's still left up, of those 100% pick and bans, we see 3 of them banned away. Yeah, Elise is that 5th one, so they're going to leave both of those 100%ers up. Braum also, alongside Thresh, are next on support, so TSM get number 2 and 3 in the sort of pick ban tier list.
Okay, so I like this from Team SoloMid. They're basically saying, we see what you're doing with this Mordekaiser. You want us to ban Darius and you get first pick Elise. Instead, they want to trade it, and because there's all things like Fiora, Braum is open, Kalista is open in the bottom lane. A lot of strong picks. You can take 2 of them and at least just trade the value of Darius for Elise. And I think that's a fair enough trade to make.
Can Dyrus handle a champion like Fiora, though? It's not exactly something that we see a lot in his wheelhouse. And keep in mind, we're about to see a game with Someday on Darius, guys.
I don't think it's Fiora. I think it's Lesboy playing Braum. He's 3-0 in the champion. I think Braum is far and away like the best of the supports left open.
I think you're right.
The thought, though, is Fiora is a flex pick. We've seen here some people play her in mid, as I would not like the Fiora Darius matchup.
Yeah, take the Braum here, because you want to take away as much as possible from KT. The Fiora should be open unless you want to run like a double physical solo lane composition from KT. I'm not expecting that at all. So Team SoloMid making the right choices with the first 2 picks. Question is just, can they keep Someday down now that he is on a Darius that can really get out of control?
I wonder, because we haven't seen Darius perform like super spectacularly yet in the tournament, but it's only been 1 day. Rek'Sai and Azir, the 2 picks locked in for KT.
I think it's very smart of KT to pick up Azir here. I think they're both Nagne and Bjergsen's best champions, at least statistically and just from what I've seen of them play. So I'm glad for Rolster's sake that they took this away. It's a big deal. It does still leave plenty of the other big team fighters up. Very few mid laners were banned here. So Bjergsen's got to go down that tier list a little bit.
I mean, Nagne is a great Azir as well, too. In Korea, Nagne and Coco really were the premier Azir players in very different styles, but Nagne is on something he's very comfortable with. He can stay back, be safe, farm up, be relevant late game.
And that's the key for KT around this mid lane here. We mentioned how Someday should be a better top laner than Dyrus. We talk about how Peekaboo and Score can out-roam Lost Boy and Centurion. So the mid lane is where Team SoloMid had the big advantage. A safe laner like Azir, even though it's picked blind, I mean, you are on the blue side, you're already showing your solo laners.
All right.
It shows that KT were definitely ready for this. You need to know this can happen with LeBlanc and Zed being back in the meta. Bjergsen's gonna take a matchup where he can win it. He needs help though from Centurion if they really want to shut down this Azir.
This honestly looks like a very good champ deck for Team SoloMid. It feels like they've baited every single one of these picks, and like looking at the picks and bans so far, these matchups look all very good for TSM. Knowing that they can go in with the Olaf into the Darius, I think, which should be a very strong matchup for the Olaf. Elise can gank that lane. You can bully Darius out, and LeBlanc is a great assassin now. Once again, Azir is slower. Azir gets away from the ganks a bit weaker. There's some plays here for TSM.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the last pick just being a Sivir. It's going to synergize with the Olaf. It's a combination we haven't seen lately, but we saw a lot of Sivir yesterday as, again, one of these AD carries who would just focus on fast pushing waves, and then that ulti is still very valuable in the fights for Team SoloMid, unless they want maybe a tower pushing AD carry like a Tristana in there that can also handle herself in the lane.
You know, an Arrow just locked in Kog'Maw. This has been one of his best champions by far this last season, even though it's very weak and you got to worry about a Kog'Maw into a champion like Olaf. If there's anyone, though, out there that can pull it off, it's certainly Arrow.
And this is going to be interesting because we know Peekaboo likes to leave that lane a lot. Kog'Maw thankfully has a lot of ranged farming tools, so getting away won't be the worst thing in the world for him down there. But Peekaboo roaming at Alistar, a great pick for him. He's going to be very comfortable making these kinds of plays. I do agree that Sivir makes a lot of sense here. It allows TSM to say, screw that, we'll dive your bot lane, much like we saw earlier yesterday.
Yeah, the only problem about Sivir is the lane matchup is not great. For Wild Turtle, then it can be a little bit difficult for them to play it, especially one to hit level 6 on the side of KT's bottom lane. But again, you're building it more for the team comp. You have an Olaf who can get onto a low mobility AD carry, help him get there. Because if he's only running Ghost and nothing else, it's very difficult. We don't see as much Righteous Glory anymore. It's been nerfed. Again, Talisman is then getting out a little bit. But it seems like Team SoloMid are really looking for a lot of skill matchups here. They're not afraid to dance with KT.
I guess so. That is a bold pick for Wild Turtle. You know, ADC has been pretty criticized about his positioning, his mechanics throughout a couple seasons now.
Yeah.
Bringing in that vein, it's going to be interesting.
I only played it exactly once this split, and he did win on the champion, so TSM feeling comfortable on this one. And it feels like whenever we get to these big tournaments, there are players that really do well on this stage and players that really play up to their big sort of expectations here. Wild Turtle had one of his very best games on his very first game on TSM when it was like, look, you can replace KX here if you show up. We'll see if he gets that kind of performance here today.
I want to see Team SoloMid, though, punish up in this top lane. Olaf is a very strong early laner, and you have Elise for that early game gank as well. Do not play around Bjergsen in the first few levels. There's a cleanse on the Azir. Try and shut down the Darius. He's not going to run anywhere once you get onto him, and maybe try and snowball your side lane for once.
Yeah, like I said, I think that matchup is very good. Just the mechanics of the matchup itself, right? Olaf is going to run at you. He's got slows, and he can even pop the ulti to go away from a lot of things. The fact that Darius is so weak to chain CC and so weak to all the hard crowd control that can come through here, I do think Elise plus Olaf can be very strong. Dyer's been putting in a ton of practice over the last couple of weeks, so maybe we'll see him play up to Sunday's level. It's a tall task, but I think that is what's up here for Dyrus.
You know, we see a very comfortable composition for KT as well, too. They've got a safe ADC for Arrow, and they can play for the late game like they prefer.
We'll see if that's going to happen now, guys. As we load into the game, let us know who thinks got the edge in this one. Tweet at Elevable Esports with the hashtag TSM win or hashtag KTR win. We will see who you guys think is going to come out as we start off day 2. KT Rolster versus Team SoloMid. Both of these regions are so far undefeated in the World Championship, and either Korea or North America will end this game 3-0 across 3 teams. TSM, the major underdogs.
It's a high-stake match for both of these regions. And how about this, man? Korea 3-0 early on in groups at Worlds. Maybe not a big shock, but NA is stepping up. I mean, it's been LMS team so far. This would be the biggest win yet. I love this team flare spam stuff, by the way. This is awesome.
Good Tigers had the best one yesterday.
Oh,
After
they did.
Aces, all 5 running to Baron. Look beautiful.
Yeah, definitely.
Early on, though, Team SoloMid might look to have a lane swap here with Wild Turtle and Lost Boy, send them towards the top lane, have the Vayne, sit in her own lane, get a few levels under her belt. We've seen a lot of teams try and lane swap on the Darius pick. Again, it's very hard for him to sit and farm on his own. He doesn't really have a whole lot of ways to get in safely. He just has to spin that axe and hope he can last hit a minion or 2, and people simply try and delay his build.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen Someday on this championette. Obviously, when the patch came out where these juggernauts got buffed, that was after Korea had already finished their League of Legends before Worlds. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to see how he can perform, but he's kind of the ultimate carry top laner in Korea right now, so I'm not too worried.
Right now, we saw Dyrus show himself in the top lane where there is a ward, so he was pinged by KT. I'm not sure if TSM were aware of the ward being there, because he then snuck out around it, so maybe trying to bait it a little bit. Some mind games early on from Team SoloMid.
There's a couple things that can happen here, especially if top laners like to start a camp early on. I've seen people will undercut the wave like Peekaboo's doing right here, and it really messes with the freezing capabilities. This will guarantee a freeze for KT, by the way. They've already piled the minions up. So already an interesting level 1 that I haven't seen before, actually, the support pulling the wave like this. Arrow and Peekaboo will have a very easy time getting this Gromp, though.
But obviously the map is completely divided. It also means KT can just start and take away everything on the top side jungle for themselves and not show anyone in the lane before minions were coming down anyhow. But same for both teams. Dyrus was showing himself on the top side. They do take a camp though for Wild Turtle and Lost Boy, so they will have to push this wave. But that's where Olaf comes in very handy. Because let him take a bit of damage in the jungle, make sure that passive really kicks in, and then get him onto these towers here, and he can take them down so fast. And 10-15 seconds matter quite a lot if you want to fast push in terms of how quickly you can turn back down to the bottom side and how much CS you can deny from the enemy top laner.
And they even made sure Dyrus took some damage. The bonus attack speed will help him clear that even faster, and we contrast that to the freeze that was initially started by KT. Here's the completely standard North American LCS turret push. Every team does this.
Yeah, they are going for a very fast turret, and it doesn't look like there's anything really that KT can do to stop this right now. Maybe a bit more pressure on the bot lane.
Yeah, but by contrast, they didn't pull a top laner or jungler over, so even though all these waves are getting denied, essentially the equivalent of a freeze, TSM gets so much more turret damage down.
Yeah, this is KT not reacting properly, in my opinion, when they see this fast push, because the problem now for them, they're not freezing. The only other play they can really make, unless they send members down to try and smack down the tower, is bounce it back from the wave and just let it freeze down. Just accept that you lost the tower, but at least you get a frozen lane for your AD carry, because TSM is already killing the tower. They can send down a guy to this bottom side. KT is just very delayed. They do, however, get a little bit more farm between top lane and jungle, but we saw Santorin just sit in the jungle himself and solo farm all the time.
Well, the real question is, once KT starts trying to get into the enemy jungle, you know, what's TSM going to do to stop it? I mean, they need to keep Peekaboo and Score out of their jungle.
Well, having Elise is a big part of that for Team SoloMid. That's why they were happy enough taking a trade saying, you will get Darius for someday, we will get Elise for the early game for Santorin. So if you want to fight 2v2, we're ready to take it. They will not be able to get this tower. KT kept pushing the waves in, but there were only 2 members.
Well, TSM's picking different lanes. They're not sending the Vayne and the Braum down there. Wild Turtle's heading to the top side, which means Dyrus and maybe some help will be holding that turret.
Well, Dyrus now in the bottom lane. He will be able to pick up quite some farm. He will get solo experience, and even if he loses the tower, it's not the end of the world for Team SoloMid because he's getting solo farm, while top lane, 2 versus 1 and no backup for Someday will be very difficult for him to pick up farm. So this is basically TSM saying we can guarantee experience on Dyrus at least because he has a tower for safety. Someday does not. So he has to either have jungle help all the time or he has to just back away.
Well, I mean, this is one of the ways that you keep Score and Peekaboo out of your jungle. You give them something else to worry about. Specifically, you give Score something else to worry about. He's got to kind of babysit Someday right now, and that's making it go a little bit TSM's way so far.
And he's already unwilling to babysit him. You saw the Darius recall back. Wild Turtle is solo freezing the top lane. He gets that standard Vayne freeze that AD carries love while still getting the turret gold as well. Someday has to roam and try to make plays.
We have to see a 4-man dive on the bottom side for KT. That should happen right now, at least for Dyrus, the way they're doing it.
They look for Dyrus.
Team SoloMid is reading it really well here, saying, okay, we've just seen Score move. We see Darius in the mid lane moving down as well. So we know exactly what's going on. So the best for KT now is just take that bottom tower and make sure that the Olaf does not get more farm and experience.
Yeah, looks like that's what they'll do right now. Someday Score lurking in the tri-brush. Dyrus obviously knows Score's around. They get the turret, so that ties things up gold-wise and turret-wise at least. But where do we go for a
Dyrus has to be careful about where he went. He just took a bunch of damage, but Bjergsen in the mid lane with his team coming in, flash forced away from Nagne.
Manages to make it out. That Cocoon coming in just at the end, but it wasn't quite enough.
So 2 side lanes now are both pushing towards Team SoloMid. Up top, we have seen Wild Turtle freeze for quite a while now. And then this wave here with Darius going down, Darius might just try and shove it out, but they're going to go for it. He's getting a bit greedy.
Little bit of trouble here, maybe. No level 6. He's got no ultimate. Gets knocked up. He's in a lot of trouble. And that will be first blood going to Someday. And that is exactly who you do not want to get the first kill if you're TSM.
Yeah, they did so much to try and shut down Someday in this start. Gave a frozen wave to Wild Turtle. Deny him CS. KT reacted properly. They went all the way down to the bottom side. And Dyrus should just have stayed back. Because you knew there were so members, exactly. Yeah. You knew there were so many guys on the bottom side, and he gets punished.
It's a bit surprising. Bjergsen doing what he can in the mid lane. Nagne, though, behind in farm, trying to keep up as best he can. But this is perfectly fine for Nagne. He's used to being down in CS and lane. It's just kind of how he plays the game. Just wants to stay safe and be relevant later.
What's incredible about this, though, is that even despite the 600 gold worth first blood, KT Rolster actually just tied in gold with TSM here.
Yeah.
SoloMid are the only team at this tournament to normally have a gold deficit at 50 minutes in their region. We're halfway there, and TSM actually holding equal is better than their average early game, to be completely fair about this one. Up against KT Rolster, at least it bodes well. It's a promising trend for TSM, though of course there's so much more to play in this game.
Well, I'm a little bit worried about Dyrus on the other side, though. I mean, he's still down by a lot of CS. He's down in levels. And now that he's in the 1v1 versus Someday, he's got to be pretty careful. I guess Wild Turtle did show up. Probably pretty smart of TSM to give Dyrus a little bit of a hand there.
They can take the Dragon now if they want something, because Arrow is stuck on the top side and he's just slowly pushing it out. But Dyrus has to make sure he catches that big wave that's going to go near his tier 1 tower on top side once Arrow pushes it out. It's so key for him. He's already fallen behind and he cannot afford to fall further. Peekaboo is not going to see anything with the ward.
TSM heading for a 4-man dive on a Someday themselves, but of course Peekaboo is here for the defense.
Bjergsen is coming as well.
He's got some, yeah, Score is there.
3v5.
There's a lot of people down on the bottom side of the map. Is TSM actually going to go for it? That turret has a lot of help. Nagne moving down. Here comes the wave. They're trying to clear
gets aggroed too early.
Comes with the knockup. Plusboy takes a lot of damage from the turret. Someday gets low, gets taken down by Wild Turtle. The melee continues, so Emperor's Divide used. Santorin flashing away, and it looks like at the end of the day, only Someday going down.
And that was about 5 Summoner spells burned for TSM. They spent a lot of effort, and Arrow is still farming in the top lane. That will reach the turret and bounce right back. I don't know if that was even all that good for TSM.
There's teleport for Dyrus, so they gotta kill down the bottom side. They played that dive really, really well, and he's gonna catch this big wave. So I like it still for them, because they're getting some farm. They know it's only a 1v1 lane. I like the play as well. We had the situation, do you want to take Dragon and play it super safe? No, they said we can 5-man dive with Bjergsen because he had been pushing the lane. This is where the pressure in these lanes come in. He could roam first and therefore go for the dive.
Dyrus is taking so much damage though.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting hit a little bit in this lane, and also it's now teleport advantage for KT. Someday is already 6, and Score heading up to this side as well. Dyrus is getting picked on, and he can't leave the lane easily.
And that's the problem when you run out of a lot of good options. When there's only one left, it's really like we gotta just dive here because we need something for our top laner. He's already fallen behind, and all of it is just trying to get Dyrus back in this game.
Oh, gonna try to make play. Dyrus starting the recall, has to burn that flash to get out.
He didn't actually have to. Score had no way of actually getting the unburrow underneath, but
scary, man, when a big monster comes out of the ground.
I understand the decision there by Dyrus, but just technically, even though it does give the red buff away, KT has control. And this is interesting, they're actually playing the top side of the map, knowing that Someday can get up there. And KT, instead of playing for Dragon, are playing for Arrow.
Well, it's beginning, guys. What are we seeing? Peekaboo and Score getting into the jungle, forcing people back.
Trying to do exactly the same.
And they will land the stun.
Someday
he's gonna go in.
He's in a lot of trouble, and he gets out. All right,
red buff
Not
trade.
as much trouble.
Yeah, red buff trade. Both top laners pushed out of their respective lanes, so both these guys getting very, very little farm.
Yeah, both teams basically mirror each other, but Dyrus seems to constantly get caught out a little bit and forced to either flash away or run away. Someday had no problem just walking out of the jungle, but both teams looking at where's the AD carry pushing in the waves. Do we want to deny it? Yes. Do we want to take tower? Yes. So therefore we have support and jungle as the backup around the lane. Just applying pressure, looking for some picks.
Yep. Nagne and Bjergsen still dueling in the mid lane. Nagne's managed to kind of stem the flow of CS as we see Wild Turtle take out this tier 1 down in bot. Nagne only 20 CS down now, but a lot of pressure on this top lane tier 2. Look at this
score. 4 guys heading in. TSM did it 3 minutes ago. KT says, we can do it too, and beautifully executed. Wow. No summoners lost from what I can tell. Much better dive by KT.
So really KT was simply about 10 seconds ahead of Team SoloMid. By the time they took down the tier 1 tower, pushed in for the next one, they could go for the play while Wild Turtle was still busy on the bottom side, hadn't recalled yet. They knew it was a safe dive. And we see so many tower dives in the early game in this meta here. And all of them so far, it's not even been that risky. There's always been a numbers advantage for the team diving. It's never been like a 3v3 or anything crazy.
Yeah, well, this is fascinating too, because we're seeing KT kind of give up this first dragon. We're really in a very different meta now. And so the question is, who's going to adapt better in this tournament? KT trying to show what they've got. Nagne taking a lot of pounding in the mid lane. Still okay for the moment anyway.
Well, that's what's so interesting about this game is it's an extended lane swap. TSM went back to the lane with the turret death when they first knocked it down. This game has never had a heads-up 2-on-2 matchup, including the AD carries and supports. And so based on where you are in the map, that dictates which objectives you get. TSM get the first dragon, and they keep the gold basically identical here.
And if we think about it, Team SoloMid has never really been known for having a great 2v2 bottom lane with Wild Turtle and Lost Boy. So hiding them a little bit is a smart idea, and at the same time, they try to shut down Someday as much as possible by sending Wild Turtle back and zone him off the creeps, forcing him to go all the way to the bottom lane. But Dyrus has just been sacrificed a few times. So KT has found openings where he stayed for too long, and then they just managed to get kills onto him, which has been important for them in keeping up in gold.
Do you feel like we're seeing kind of more of the same Dyrus, like you said, sort of sacrificed?
Well, TSM has just played so hard around their AD carry. I mean, both teams really have. Someday hasn't gotten a lot of help from his team. He's been TPing in to get ganks for Arrow.
I think we've just seen a difference between the two top laners. Someday always seemed to know when he couldn't stay and just walked away and didn't risk getting killed.
That's a good point.
Where Dyrus was more staying in lane, trying to either push it out or stay on the tower. knowing there was a chance of a 4-man dive, and that's why he's died twice.
Yeah, very true. Now I think we're going to see the focus shift for KT down to the bottom half of the map. They've gotten what they need to do on top.
The problem is there's nothing to do down there. All 4 outer turrets on the side lanes are already dead, and Dragon's gone for the next 4 minutes. Arrow has a little bit of time to go till his Trinity Force comes in, but unless they try to siege down mid, which to be fair is possible, there's nothing to fight for unless you really want to commit down to a tier 2 turret.
It's some fairly unreliable wave play from Team SoloMid. It's just Bjergsen who can like jump into the wave with distortion, and you can never do that if a team is already sieging. You have a Trinity Force AD carry with Sheen completed, you have an Azir who's going Nashus. The siege is fairly decent for KT to start poking us out and keep Bjergsen under control.
Oh, Nagne taking a lot of damage.
Ignite
This could be the 1v1 Ignite. Will be enough, not quite.
And that's really the thing.
That cleanse.
Bjergsen keeps looking for these trades here. He does really well in this one-on-one, so KT needs to find a way to control him. That's going to be by sending multiple members to this mid lane and just push the LeBlanc into a tower.
Yeah, I mean, and you would expect a player like Bjergsen in a 1v1 dueling situation to be able to beat a player like Nagne, but he didn't get the kill. The question is, can he get far enough ahead to make that difference in the late game? He's got a decent CS
and most of the turret.
Yeah.
Now here's
Good start.
I know. There's so many interesting things in this game. I wish I could talk about all of them, but as an AD carry, both outer turrets being down, it is so hard to play against Vayne as any other AD carry in the game. Arrow has to pretty much always respect Wild Turtle in the one-on-one because of the champion matchup here. And if you ever get an extended lane phase again, it's just hard to be Kog'Maw.
And we just keep seeing how the side lanes are pushed towards either team. So bottom side now was pushed in, then Darius gets a big wave. Before it was down to some that he got the wave and...
Nagne, that was not a good decision. Bjergsen
he missed
failed to kill. He missed the Empress of Adam. There's a kill for Bjergsen in the 1v1 in mid.
Bjergsen, he kept trying. This time around, there was no summoners in the mid lane. He gets another engage and some misplays come in from Nagne. But in the end, Team SoloMid, we highlighted how this mid lane matchup is where they can really get far ahead, and Bjergsen has been on fire so far.
I gotta say, Nagne's looking a little bit flustered in this mid lane now. That was a pretty poor duel we just saw from him, and you can't do that against a player like Bjergsen. He will take every advantage he can from every tiny mistake you make.
EU mid laners, man.
In NA versus Korea, the EU mid laners reign supreme.
It's a global game. Let's watch this one again.
This is the E, wants the shield from it. Bjergsen somehow lands the chain while Nagne's moving, and then again, Bjergsen expects the ult or something, but happens to walk around the side to never get CC'd.
I thought maybe he expected someday to get there a little bit quicker too. That could have been part of it, but either way, not the strongest play we've ever seen from Nagne.
But due to Team SoloMid keeping the Vayne in the side lane, keeping the Olaf in the side lane, catching farm, pushing waves down, they force KT to respond and defend those side lanes so they cannot group on Bjergsen. And as we mentioned before, use your Azir, use your Trinity Force AD carry to start pushing in and just avoid this one-on-one. That's going to happen again and again. So far, good job with the 1-3-1.
You know, the biggest thing to me is when I look at the minimap right now, what I don't see is wards on TSM's side from KT. And when you don't see that, it's usually meaning a KT loss is coming in. So, yeah, if you're a KT fan, you got to start to get a little bit worried about the situation now.
I mean, meanwhile, look at the vision. We're 50 seconds from Dragon. You can see 4 wards in this southern jungle. Score will clear 1. He's got a defensive pink, but there's 3 more that KT have yet to deal with here. TSM doing a very good job of kind of beating KT at their own game. The jungle support roams have been okay, and they've been getting Dragon control.
And once again, it just opens up for Bjergsen to continue sitting in the mid lane. Slowly, he will push down his tower. If Nagne stays for too long, he might even die.
Big chunk of damage dealt there.
It is not going to get better for KT because they've lost control of their own jungle. So we get to see the pushes happening in every lane. Darius is just sitting and farming for himself whenever there's a wave. And now TSM saying, you know what? It's time to take down the tower.
Yeah, TSM starting to pull farther and farther ahead. It's a small gold lead, but it's much more about the vision, about the positioning. TSM's got it all right now. Oh, we might see a fight here in this mid lane. Score gets caught with the chains, but they're not going to follow it up. Dragon is live.
Arrow's getting a lot of damage down.
That's right, Santorin has to flash away. The flash gets 2 with the E. There's a Brahma coming in, but the knockup from Peekaboo. KT, this could be the fight they're looking for. Pushing TSM back right now. They got a kill on Santorin, and they are just going to go for this mid lane turret.
Exactly what KT wanted here. Someday he's still very strong on his Darius. He's finally part of the team fight. They got together as a group. This team, they want to fight 5 versus 5 and not take these 1 versus 1s against the Vayne, against the LeBlanc. That's not in their favor.
Well, they got the team fight. They're going to get 2 turrets out of that as well. Can probably just go for Dragon on the way out. We'll see if they decide to do it.
It's a bit risky because there are all the respawns coming in for TSM. Santorin doesn't exactly have any ults to worry about here, so it's going to be interesting. Looks like KT will be recalling, which could give TSM the chance to knock that down.
And we'll see. Either way, a little...
Yeah, this is TSM's Dragon.
I think so. A little gold lead for KT. TSM, though, gets that second Dragon, so the pressure is on. It's bizarre to see KT in a situation where the other team is up 2 Dragons like this.
I don't think in this game, though, they care. Because you just got 2 mid lane towers. You just won a team fight as well, where you were in a very bad situation, getting pushed in every single lane, basically. Maybe outside the top lane, where Someday was always in control. However, getting that goal lead back for KT, and the fact that they finally got to group, that's what matters for them. So now they also get a chance to get a few wards into the jungle of Team SoloMid, slow down the split push. And if we get to see them grouping up one more time with AD carry and mid lane together, KT should be able to at least keep track of where Team SoloMid is.
Should be. They did also use that opportunity to finally get some wards into TSM's jungle too, so they finally got a little bit more vision to work with. So I'm sure, if nothing else, they're in a little bit more comfortable of a situation now.
And it's interesting as well, you speak about being more comfortable. The fact that a Negatron Cloak is now in here for Nagne means those Bjergsen solo kills are going to be much, much less likely to happen. Bjergsen got a good laning phase. He got the turret first. He got a solo kill. That's good for him. But Nagne is in a full team fight power now. Took some wounds, but he's already back and recovered. Nashor's Tooth done. Level 11 is here. The team fight power is already here.
Yeah. Definitely is. And Score going into the jungle there. Bjergsen's got an eye on him, though.
And this is very risky for KT because the mid lane once again is pushed down so far. Wild Turtle is in the top side, so he cannot join in case there's a teleport coming in from Someday in a big team fight, but then he can just push in multiple towers towards the base. So once again, Team SoloMid is in a position where they should be able to hold because Bjergsen can always roam. So KT knows we cannot push this tower. It doesn't matter that there's minions. If we do it, we might just die to LeBlanc.
You know, one thing we haven't mentioned yet is the blue control that KT has had for a lot of the game. They've been able to get a lot of those blue buffs.
Yeah, good steal by them. And this was, again, just where the people were sent around the map. Wild Turtle sent to the top side, the duel up against Someday, who has teleport. He can always show up on that bottom side. TSM has to respect that. And in fact, we saw a second ago, Nagne had run to the bottom lane to try to defend a top turret. They thought TSM was pushing, and that actually wasn't the case. Wild Turtle's just on an island. He's just getting farmed. They're not really pressuring with him.
We're going to see a lot more Vayne, though, in this tournament. With big bruisers like Darius, of course, in the meta, having a Vayne who can so easily duel them, or at least avoid getting caught by them with her mobility, is going to be very important. And being able to, again, split up this map and take care of the tanks.
I do wonder at what point this Darius pick's mobility challenges are going to sort of catch up with the strength that it has in team fights.
Oh, TSM aren't really very good at being anti-melee is the problem. If they had like an Azir or a Victor, being Darius would kind of suck a little bit, but LeBlanc and Olaf aren't really going to punish that in team fights. I think Somebody's going to be totally fine, and this first pick becomes justified as the game goes on.
Yeah, I mean, just meant in general with Darius.
Oh, sure,
This
sure.
game he's okay, but...
There'll definitely be a lot of games.
2 people, man. That's pretty decent.
We've seen it already with Darius, how he's been a fairly safe option, honestly, for teams to have over in that top lane. He has a lot of good matchups. It's very hard to deal with him. He heals for a lot more now in team fights compared to before, so even there he has quite some presence. But often it is, as you just said yourself, you need that flash pull to start a fight, so you should never be the main engage as the Darius on a team. There needs to be something else. In this case, Peekaboo is on the Alistar to engage in even a knockup from Score to start the fight, so they're helping Someday getting there and make sure he can always get onto targets.
Meanwhile, new item alert here for Someday. Sterix Gauge picked up for him. It's a big damage increase, and it's a great tank item, actually, with a shield that pops when you get low. But he's not buying items that make him go faster. No Dead Man's Plate, no randoms for the CC.
I'm surprised to not see the Dead Man's Plate specifically. That seems to be pretty standard as a second item on Darius these days.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this before the show as well, how some of these new items like Sterix Gauge here is super good. However, it doesn't really give you what you need as a big, low mobility bruiser, in the sense that your main weakness is getting and sticking onto targets for yourself. Like, getting that engaging, that will not help you. Dead Man's Plate will, but it does make you insanely strong if you finally get the one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, my general thought is it's a team game. You can pick champions for their strengths, and their weaknesses get covered by your teammates. making Someday fast doesn't make him a better Darius. Making Someday unkillable and do 1 million damage makes him the scariest frontliner in the game. And if you can rely on your team to set you up, you've got Alistair and Rek'Sai for some initiation power.
Sure.
I mean, that's the role, just to be a big, heavy frontliner. Someday will do that.
You know, another big thing to kind of take note of, I think, item-wise, is that Score's been able to pick up his Aegis now. Talk about making Bjergsen, you know, more trivial in team fights. That's going to be even less damage that he's going to be doing.
What's another thing about the changes in 5.16? The Aegis aura went down to 15 magic resist from 20. So for champions like Arrow who aren't getting any other MR, it's actually worse for him. Of course, it's still good for Score and the rest of the lineup who are buying other magic resist items.
I suppose.
I mean, it's still good.
It all helps.
I'm just referencing patch changes because I love items.
Now, Bjergsen is 14 at the moment. He's going to hit level 16 fairly soon, at least for himself, which is one of these big spikes for the Blanc, where he can really start one-shotting the back line. Arrow, of course, is behind him in levels as an 80. Getting pulled in. Don't care about that one. Jumping straight back to Distortion.
I gotta be careful, though. He took a lot of damage there, and with less than a minute until Dragon, they can't really afford to have that happen. Wild Turtle comes in, contempt for Score against the wall. Your Score has to burrow his way out. Shield thrown up by Lustboy as KT disengages. But again, Dragon is coming soon. You cannot lose someone right now.
Now, it's going to be 3 Dragons for Team SoloMid if they get it. And with KT being forced back in base, giving up all control, at least towards the bottom side, not that Team SoloMid has taken over because they want to push this tower instead.
Alright,
going to get a lot done.
Siege on the tier 2. Arrow can do a lot of damage to Lustboy if he wants to, and he may. There's a chilling smite. Score comes over the side. Lustboy taken down. There's another kill for Someday. Lustboy just simply out of position.
Yeah, very strange. The rest of his team just walked back up the mid lane, but he stayed a little bit too long, and it's in the end. Score just ulties in behind him. Very important kill for KT.
Very awkward, and it may give them their first Dragon of the game, too.
Well, that's the thing is TSM, the rest of them had postured around Baron, daring KT to even try that. This is normal, like typical TSM. After 20 minutes, will dare you to take Dragon because they'll kill Baron instead. Lustboy didn't get the memo, went to the other side toward Dragon, and because of that pick, there is no threat, and a clean pickup for KT.
Yep.
It's been one of the problems we can highlight for Team SoloMid in this game is that some of their members have been caught out when they shouldn't have, and that has given openings for KT to get ahead in gold here, to now get a second dragon, or get a first dragon instead of a third dragon for Team SoloMid, which could have been a very key thing. As we know, KT as well, once they are behind, don't always know exactly what to do on the map, and often rely on getting towards these 4 or 5 dragons and then look to close it out.
And well, that train has begun for KT Rolster. Started with a dip, 2 dragons down, but now they're back up on the lift, getting 1 dragon for themselves.
I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes to the super late game, when it comes to 30 minutes plus, who do you really trust to make the better late game moves, better late game decision making? TSM is good in NA, but KT is just so strong overall. They have one of the longest average game times in Korea right now. If anybody knows late game, it's definitely this team.
Yeah, but for NA's sake, TSM is kind of the same way here. These are both the low kill, mostly map control focused teams. These are actually the 2 least bloody teams, kills plus deaths per minute.
We don't have a lot
games.
to do. It's sad for us, isn't it?
Well, this is why we kind of start talking about the histories of the players. That's why I'm glad you're on the cast. You know these Korean teams so well, and I start gushing about items. This is like how you expect KT vs TSM to go. 6 kills, 26 minutes.
And this is what we expect for Team SoloMid right now. They need to find a new objective where they can bait around and put Bjergsen in a position where he can assassinate a target. He's getting higher and higher up in terms of levels, but there's more and more magic resist coming on the side of KT, so it's not going to be easier for him to get these kills. And as long as there's map control or wards down, he can't find that assassination. And it's a problem, but we see them trying to at least bait near the Baron. Come on, move closer. Someone gets out of position, then Bjergsen pops in and tries to get
it. Nagne tries to do some fancy dodging, just takes a lot of damage in return.
I mean, Nagne tries to land the E to get a shield to make that trade a bit easier. And you can see he keeps the control up in the mid lane thanks to the turret. But Bjergsen right now is about 500 gold shy of a Void Staff. That item comes through, that combo might actually kill Nagne in its own right. So that can always be a risk, but there's a lot of time that TSM has to wait, and Someday making a nice play here.
Yeah, slowing Dyrus down, doing a bit of damage. Misses that Q. Dyrus can always pop the ultimate to just walk right out if he needs to.
And Olaf is one of these champions here who's normally extremely strong in the early laning phase when it comes to these early duels here, but late game, it becomes very difficult for him to really take down anything, especially these big tanks like Someday. The one-on-one has been very much in favor of him because Someday's been getting the early kills as well. And by him just constantly having this pressure, he will keep control of where Dyrus is, and it means KT might be able to make the proactive move. Because again, they're still just waiting. They're just waiting, making sure Bjergsen cannot kill anyone, and then slowly scale up on your AD carry, scale up with your mid laner.
Yeah, KT has all day as far as they're concerned.
They're actually controlling the minion waves much better as well. Take a look at the farm leads on all these players. Aside from specifically Bjergsen, who is ahead considerably, every single one of the other 4 roles is better for KT. And now Dyrus pops the ult. The slow is enough to get him away just barely, but he's out of this lane.
Afraid it might be the end times for him.
Here's typical TSM play though. Right away, they're trying for it, and Dyrus can teleport.
Score comes in too. With that ultimate himself, Nagne coming up, Bjergsen trying to zone him out. We can see on the minimap. Here comes Peekaboo, teleport coming in for Dyrus. Peekaboo goes in for the knockup.
No
Kog'Maw coming in. Where is Kog'Maw? Someday needs to do the damage. Here he comes, arrow right there. Bjergsen very, very low. Kills coming in for Wild Turtle though, but a double comes in for Nagne and KT. They've got the fight as Wild Turtle caught by Someday. That's 3 kills now. A double kill for Arrow, that's 4. Might as well be an ace because they've got the Baron.
Very big mistake from Bjergsen in this fight here. He starts up by using his abilities on Peekaboo, who's parking his ulti anyway. So suddenly Nagne knows, oh, there's no threat of me being one-shot. I can move close and start dealing damage. Arrow obviously comes in fairly late, but because Bjergsen was not a threat to Nagne, he could pick up the kills. The rest of KT comes in. Team SoloMid is stuck in the Baron pit, and then there was nothing they could do.
Now beautiful stuff, KT replying to this Baron attempt so very well. Here comes the Bjergsen combo. Q, E, gets chunked down, dodges away with his W, jumps back in. He's doing no damage whatsoever.
And look at Nagne here. He was on 50% HP, and yet he just stepped forward right next to Bjergsen. I don't care about you. You have no cooldowns right now. So I'm just going to take care of the rest of your team instead. So well played from KT, but also, again, a missed opportunity for Team SoloMid. Never, ever focus the Alistar. It's just not worth it when he jumps in.
You know, and that's exactly what Peekaboo wanted. He wanted to scare him, wanted to get right in their faces and force that out, and it worked like a charm. Not like an Ari charm, like a different, like a metaphysical kind of charm.
A little bit mixed communication as well from Team SoloMid here. Arrow was gonna be late, so it could be a 5 versus 4 team fight. But it's like half the team were kind of staying on Baron, some of them were turning around, a little bit of everything, instead of just instant call saying, okay, disengage from Baron, take the team fight while the AD carry is gone.
Yeah. Bjergsen looking for a bit of redemption, nearly gets it with close to a kill onto Arrow. Should heal up pretty quickly though.
And now it's how much can KT Rolster take while this Baron buff is on. Dragon will respawn during its tenure, but they can also try to keep sieging. Azir and Kog'Maw, 2 of the very best of what they do, while Alistar plays bodyguard. This should be incredibly difficult for TSM to do anything. You guys mentioned earlier the low wave clear by TSM.
And Bjergsen from the side nearly takes down Score.
They do some damage, but the turret it can't run away. It can't heal up really. And you can see very little gets done by TSM as the turret loses more and more health.
Yeah, Bjergsen poking. Dyrus going very, very low. He's got to be careful here, but as a minion wave dies, KT needs to wait that cannon minion. And still doing a bit of work.
Azir loves being in this position where he has his own turret behind him, he has the Baron buff minion, and nothing you can really do to stop it right now. They're just waiting for Bjergsen to pick off a target on the side, and that can really be the go button for Team SoloMid. Yep. There's really no other main engagement.
Oh, the stun hits him!
By Peekaboo.
Bjergsen's got to get away from this one, but now the dive in towards the turret. Few more hits will do it, and Arrow's still safe in the back line. But the W's down, he's got to buy some time. Bjergsen again can only find Peekaboo as his target, who pops the ult, knows he's safe, and now KT can run right for this dragon. TSM are on the hunt though.
Wow, they're actually going to try to tie up the dragons here, and this, if they can get this dragon, pretty much undermines everything TSM's accomplished this game.
Well, they're coming down for it. Bjergsen down to 50% mana for himself. The rest of Team SoloMid though, except for Lostboy, are fairly healthy. Arrow,
he's gonna
back down. Maybe KT said, you know what, we don't want to risk it. We're in a good position right now.
No flash for Someday. Score coming back in with the ult, but the burst comes down. What a pull! It stops the W, but the dragon comes through. No steal for Score. Ult's in for Lustboy, but it means Dyrus is by himself. He doesn't get the memo, takes so much damage. Oh, does not quite get sniped, but TSM does at least sneak the dragon.
Man, Vikings are not known for like running away, but Dyrus, he made it a thing that I think other Vikings will consider in the future because he actually lived.
This time he stayed alive.
Right.
The other times where he didn't run away, he died for it, and that has put him really far behind in this
might
game.
Cost him. They're going to lose this tier 2 turret for sure, and KT, even if they don't get the dragon, has been able to at least get something out of it each time.
And we got to see a early game here from Team SoloMid where it was clear what the plan was, you know, trying to shut down Someday. We have a strong laner in Olaf. If he can get rolling, we maybe can keep Darius down. However, because of these early deaths with him being caught out on the Olaf, the fact that KT managed to get a few picks other than just Darius dying, of course, left and right, kept them even in gold at least. And then they get that first 5-on-5 team fight where the combo or where the composition is so strong. And from there on, they've kind of been in the lead. Because Team SoloMid could no longer just put up this 1-3-1 split push because suddenly the map control were evened out. And KT's just been leading the charge from there.
And it looked like a lot of bad decisions in a row from TSM. There's Lustboy getting caught, taking the wrong exit from the mid lane after a kind of lackluster siege. Then the Baron attempt where they could have forced a 5v4, came around the wrong side.
They're going to go after score here.
It's some poke, it's not that important. But TSM, again, trying to make the exact same play. Can we set up Baron? If they put wards down now, they will last until that respawns. It's kind of the only play left. KT Rolster up so much gold right now.
I feel like I've seen this before. Peekaboo comes into the flash, headbutt pulverized Dyrus right away, pops out almost to get away. Lustboy taken down. Another kill for Arrow. Dyrus just immediately had to flee along with Wild Turtle. TSM was not ready, and now Wild Turtle caught on his own. Another kill for Nagne. Disaster for TSM.
There's so little they can do now. They're just trying to make some aggressive plays, maybe surprise KT, but it's not gonna happen. KT are in full control. Bjergsen once again looking to see if he can flank and get one kill.
Yeah, it doesn't much matter what TSM do here. Peekaboo has been so incredibly good this game. 90% kill participation, practically a perfect score, taking almost all the damage and yet finding picks all the same. The Moby Boots Alistair just not being stopped at all. Again, trying to stop Bjergsen mid-combo, and KT in control of everything.
Now, what a great story for Peekaboo throughout this year, too, was the support for SK Telecom, sidelined with wrist issues, quit the team, said, I want to play, join KT, and was a big part of getting this squad to Worlds, and he is performing at Worlds now. Awesome story for this guy over the course of the year.
Every single kill in the early game was him, and of course his trustworthy jungler right next to him.
Yep.
Walking down and finding Dyrus out of position, getting the kills. And that jungle support synergy is just so key in this meta here, because it's what sets up all these tower dives. It's what sets up the vision on the map. I will say, Santorin and Lostboy, though, were making plays as well at the same time. They just weren't able to find the same openings because Someday knew when to back away.
And just to kind of underscore how much Peekaboo has done for this team, the only best of match KT has lost has only been to SK Telecom T1. They have lost to no other teams in a best of series. Since that roster addition, he's been so much miracle sort of work for this team.
Even though that was a 3-0 loss to SK Telecom in the LCK Summer Finals, you still see this KT team come in and look so good. But on the other side, TSM, not looking bad at all. It's relatively small things, isn't it, that they need to go back and look at with this game. If they can fix them, they can be much, much more competitive going forward.
That's the thing with this World Championship. I feel like these teams are actually fair. Oh, dear Lord, that damage.
Whoa, that was a lot of damage from Arrow.
So these teams are all fairly close in skill level, a few outliers notwithstanding. It's one or two very catastrophic mistakes that pull the game out of contention anymore. Lustboy getting caught, TSM making the bad Baron call, game blown wide open, and KT no longer having any issues.
When you're talking about the world's best, it doesn't take much to separate the wins and the losses. Arrow just chasing away TSM. They've got that ward. Score maybe trying to come in from the flank here. Bjergsen catches him, but he's just not doing a ton of damage now. They catch Someday. They could Peekaboo. Oh, could be back. KT coming in, though. Arrow manages to get the kill. Arrow, this Kog'Maw is untouched, and he is raining down chaos on TSM.
There is no threat on him whatsoever. This team has done so well to create chaos in the beginning. KT engaged the fight. TSM can't go back in. Arrow can do all the damage he wants. The front line is doing all the work.
Yeah, pretty much, man. Bjergsen trying to make plays. Got a big chunk out of Someday, but that's not going to save this inhibitor. It's not going to save the turret either, in reverse order, I guess. KT still pushing ahead for that win. Bjergsen just desperate to make plays, and TSM needs him to, but they need more than Bjergsen.
Yeah, KT now full control. They have been for the last 10-15 minutes. Really just a strong performance to show how you can get back into the game, because they were suddenly being put in situations in the early game maybe they didn't expect them, where Team SoloMid had that strategy, and instead we saw KT say, you know what, easy boys, what do we do now? Okay, where do we punish them? Who's out of position? And that's how they kept it even until we got the grouping. So smart game for KT.
Yep, very, I would say, other than a few lost dragons early on, a very typical KT game. You know, it's playing it safe, methodical throughout, waiting for that late game strength, using the vision they gain to make those plays.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. So KT
Is it
taking
rush
care of
time?
business.
It might just be for Team
There's
SoloMid,
two in
like,
base.
They kind of...
TSM had the opportunity to force really hard and make something happen there.
Right now,
Kog'Maw
you
was
have
in
to rush
base.
it.
Kog'Maw was in base and Azir was far. That was actually a window TSM could have used. It's too late now.
Still, you got to do just to take the fight and force KT to move
They
down
haven't
near
even
the
killed all the
river.
wards. They're standing on one. The sweeper missed it. TSM have nothing to do here. Two
all
inhibs are
going
dead.
wrong.
The mini waves are already pushing and nothing TSM could do.
Yeah, side wave control has been good for KT as well. TSM looking for an opportunity. Wild Turtle gets caught though. Pushed back. The pulverize actually did not knock him up, I guess.
Peekaboo doesn't like the patch notes right now. The slowed headbutt.
Dude, it was that was a close call. If they had caught Wild Turtle there, that would have been basically game.
They're just going to stop the recalls because super minions are already in the base. They're going to be a fight though.
And there's the dive on in. Summoner gets the Sterix shield pop, but here comes the rest of the fight. Peekaboo on the side. Ult already popped. TSM cutting away, but that's okay for KT Rolster. The minions can win the game for them. And the big engage from Score. In comes Nagne. And it's going to be a bloodbath there. Here comes the Chaos Dug. Here comes everything. What can TSM do aside from run and cry and lick their wounds? Santorin going to be the last one to go down as Dyrus is already somewhere else on the map.
I don't even know where
already
Dyrus is right now. He's back to base. He's like, sorry guys, there's some minions in the base. I'm kind of worried about him. Good luck, bye.
They would have won the game though for KT, so Dyrus will, for now, delay. But come on, we're talking 10 seconds, and then KT's going to push in. They won this game. They played it well. They got back. They got to late game, and they showed what they could do.
Death timers are too long. I mean, yeah, KT showing what they can do, and what they do is play a very, very solid mid and late game. Stayed safe early on, and second inhibitor goes down, and there goes the Nexus. KT will take down TSM Korea 3-0 and a 2-1.
Big congratulations there to KT Rolster. They only gave up 3 deaths the entire time. All those pretty much in the early game. Closing this game out was pretty much textbook by these guys. Good job, KT.
I saw a very early game focus, composition, and strategy for Team SoloMid here. The Wong in the mid lane to apply pressure. Olaf up in the top lane. Vayne, once she gets the play, can always be a split pushing threat as well. But just the individual mistakes really hurt Team SoloMid here. It made KT always have a way back into the game.
Yeah.
They found that way, and honestly, Team SoloMid is going to look at this game and be very disappointed at some of these early mistakes they made, because they are fairly easy for them to fix.
I mean, we saw some hope for TSM too. We did see Bjergsen, I feel, pretty comfortably outplaying Nagne in the mid lane.
Exactly.
It was fairly small things. You know, Blustboy cannot get caught. Basically, it's if people cannot get caught, TSM will have much better results in this tournament.
Yeah. I like the early game strategy from them. Pick and ban phase made sense with the way they were playing. It was just executing it perfectly. Wasn't there for Team SoloMid.
That's right, and as KT Rolster takes a bow, we will see another win by a very, very strong team here. And this is exactly how they wanted to start this tournament. KT Rolster, again, finally at the World Championships, getting a big win over TSM right off the bat.
And it's still a sub 40-minute win, so even though it did look fairly close for, to be fair, actually one of our longer games at Worlds, actually, with how snowbally they've been. It's, KT doing exactly what KT does. I do want to see a lot of growth from TSM, honestly. Like, I don't have much more to say about KT Rolster. I thought they played a solid game overall. TSM, it was fraught with individual misplays. The very first tower dive they did, they had a guaranteed wave pushing in, and Lustboy went before the minion waves were there. He took 3 turret shots before even dealing damage just from jumping the gun on a dive.
They got a kill on that one, though. So it
but they
wasn't
lost
all
6
too bad.
summoner spells for a kill.
Sure.
By contrast, a single TP was ulting for KT to do the exact same thing 2 minutes later.
Thing is, we're looking also, again, at Dyrus and how he dies. When he's overstaying his welcome, he gets killed then by KT sending down 2 or 3 guys. Those were the big ones that really put him so far behind. And as an Olaf, we talked about a little bit in game. If you do not get a good start, late game, again, your impact is just so little. You don't really offer a whole lot for your team. Your damage isn't that great. That was a big problem for them, because someday on Darius in the late game as well, once he got some items under his belt, he got the Deadman's Plate as well, became fairly strong at least.
Well, I feel like you said it best, right? Where someday sensed the danger, he pulled back, didn't die. Dyrus didn't quite pick it up for whatever reason, and those deaths really hurt TSM.
Yeah, champ select-wise as well, it felt like there were things that felt weird to me. I think TSM were looking for standard lanes, I don't think you'd pick Olaf if you were planning on starving him of gold for the first 30 minutes of the game there, because they played all around Wild Turtle's AD carry and tried to get both top laners zero farm at all. And okay, that was successful, but you don't pick Olaf if that's your goal there. Yeah. So that didn't play off very well. Also, I just don't know what Vayne was supposed to accomplish when you saw all those various champions in here. You saw Alistair and Kog'Maw, and his, like, literally every champion can reach Vayne and try to kill her, and she could have been played, you know, a more utility role like Sivir or something longer range and safer.
If they want to try and match the team fight, but they already saw what KT were building, which was, again, with a Zia and so on, a fantastic 5 versus 5 composition. And when you have a LeBlanc, you rather split the map up. So Vayne made sense because, again, she could take the 1v1 duel against Arrow, force him to sit there and not start pushing towers down with a Trinity Force in the mid game. Okay. So I like that, at least from Team SoloMid, in terms of how they were building the comp, because they played the way the comp was supposed to be played. There was just too many individual mistakes, so we never got to see the comp at its full effect.
Okay, I get that one.
That's true. I mean, the early game looked promising for TSM, despite the loss in the end. It's just, you really can't make mistakes like that against a team like KT.
Well, thankfully for them, they've got 5 more games to play. We'll see if they can shape it up throughout the rest of the group stage. But for now, for a closer look at that KT Rolster win at 2015 Worlds, going to send out a shock to the interview lounge.
Thank you very much, guys. Joined here by Score and Holman to assist in the translation. First up, congratulations, fantastic victory over TSM. I want to ask about the game and especially the early kills that TSM got on their carries, Bjergsen on LeBlanc and Wild Turtle on Vayne. Did that worry you guys in any way?
스코어 선수 우선 승리를 축하드립니다. 지금 TSM 팀이 픽으로 이제 좀 하이퍼 캐리가 가능한 르블랑과 베인을 골랐고 그 뒤로 그 두 챔피언이 좀 킬을 먹었을 때 이거 좀 위험할 수 있겠다라고 혹시 좀 걱정이 됐었는지 말씀 부탁드립니다.
일단 저희 팀도 하이퍼 캐리인 코고모가 있었고 그리고 그 베인 르블랑이 크는 동시에 저희 코고모도 되게 많이 성장하고 있어서 걱정하지 않고 있었어요. 저희 그 에로우 선수가 코고모를 되게 잘하거든요.
If TSM had Vayne and LeBlanc as their hyper carry, we had Kog'Maw for Arrow, and Arrow is a very talented Kog'Maw player, so we weren't that worried. Yeah.
Not that worried, and you guys had a fantastic game in the end to close it out. You had a great game together with Peekaboo once again, and you've only been a jungler since this season. Can you explain to me how it comes that you have such incredible synergy with Peekaboo?
스코어 선수는 이제 정글로 전향한 지 이제 고작 막 1년밖에 안 됐는데 지금 같은 팀의 서포터인 피카보 선수랑 엄청난 시너지를 보여주고 있습니다. 그 둘의 호흡에 대해서 좀 말씀해 주세요.
일단 피카보 선수가 들어왔을 당시에 그 전에부터 조금 제가 잘해지고 있는 단계였고 피카보 선수가 오면서 더 많이 저한테 도움이 됐어요. 제가 원래 말을 많이 하는 스타일이었는데 말을 많이 하니까 게임 플레이에 집중을 못했었어요. 근데 피카보가 같이 말을 하면서 이제 제가 말할 거를 피카보가 조금 더 덜어주니까 그 상황에서 제가 실력을 더 많이 늘릴 수 있었던 것 같아요.
When Peekaboo first joined our team, that was when I was at the verge of actually getting adopted to the jungle position. And before, I was the only one talking on our team, and because of that, I couldn't really concentrate at the game. But when Peekaboo joined the team, we both divided that role of talking and giving orders, so that really helped me focus on my jungle role. And overall, I think we have a really good synergy together.
Yeah, you guys did fantastic in this game as well. Now, this is dubbed by a lot of people as maybe one of the group of death. Yet, you won that first game convincingly versus TSM. Who do you think is making it out of the group?
이제 KT 롤스터 팀이 죽음의 조라 불리는 그룹 D에서 첫 승을 거두셨습니다. 마지막으로 그룹 D에서 웃게 될 두 팀은 누구라 생각되시나요?
일단 오늘 지면 당연히 저희는 가능성 없다고 생각했는데 이겼기 때문에 저희는 일단 무조건 올라갈 것 같고 다른 한 팀이 이제 제 생각에는 LGD라고 다들 많이 생각하시는데 오리겐이 될 거라고 생각해요.
So if we lost our game today to TSM, I think it'd be a very hard trip for us. But since we won, I would say KT is pretty safe going to the next round. And a lot of people say that LGD has upper hand, but I actually think that Origin has a very good chance, actually.
Well, very interesting, and we'll see them playing LGD versus OG right after this one as well. Thank you so much, congratulations, and back to you guys over at the desk.
Thank you, Shocks. As Score mentioned there, we will get to how the team has been playing since the addition of Peekaboo and how much better they look. But first, I want to take an opportunity to dissect that early game because we saw a lot of really interesting things come through in the first 10 minutes from both teams.
I feel most definitely like the biggest part was like the first 5 minutes, I felt that KT kind of felt lost because I felt they misplayed the early game, but they repaired it very well. And the moment it became standard again, I felt that TSM were just completely lost because the principle in lane swaps is that you put your weaker lane in the wave that is coming in and the stronger lane that is like the wave that's coming out.
I mean, if we're talking about that lane swap, I do feel that the initial tower push was in favor of TSM, but I wouldn't even say, I mean, beyond that very first initial part, I really think that Someday just played it a lot better. You noticed his pathing. He just completely abandoned the top lane, went through the jungle, set up the dive, and you can see KT in that game played a very risk-averse style. They just waited for their opponents to make mistakes. We saw Dyrus taking a little bit more of a risk walking forward, giving up that first blood. And KT is a team that wins the overwhelming majority of their games in which they get that first blood objective.
Yeah, and they only take the risk. Like, I wouldn't say they're completely risk-averse because they did go for 2 tower dives. There was that one where there was a tower dive as well that they actually pulled off pretty easily. But I feel like they wait for the situation where they mess up and then the risk goes down drastically, right? But I also feel like TSM took that risk with the 5-man tower dive bottom. It was actually rather good. I feel like TSM and KT both played a really good first 8 minutes of the game back and forth. Then it just got completely out of hand.
Well, let's take a look at that because, you know, it was relatively even, as you mentioned. There were a few slip-ups on the side of TSM, but things really blew open when we got to that Baron fight about 28 minutes into the game.
Yeah, and I think this is the big difference here when we take a look at the team fighting. Starting off this clip, we do see Bjergsen here. He's going to use his combo on Peekaboo. Q, but he's already in his ult, misses E, and then W to the side. So the biggest carry right now in TSM, the most fed member, basically has no damage. Meanwhile, Dyrus TP'd into this fight without having his ultimate up because he used it to escape a gank in the bottom lane. And TSM thought they could do this, but KT responded. They had the Rek'Sai just to ult into that Baron fight. They had the TP up. So it was kind of an ill-advised fight. And then on top of their disadvantage from cooldown timers from that Olaf ultimate, they also had the disadvantage of not using the carry spells properly. And there was a big difference. Even though Bjergsen crushed lane against Nagne, Nagne played that team fight so much better. Yeah. You cannot, if you are a Fed LeBlanc, use your spells on an Alistar. That is a no-go.
Yeah, spells aside, being absorbed by Peekaboo, Peekaboo played every team fight incredibly well. The one where they were ending up catching out Santorin and it was the hook in from Someday onto 2 members, played that one great. Played that one great as well. Peekaboo, the addition to this roster, changing them around, his mid-late game shot calling and playmaking is what put KT in this spot and brought them all the way here.
Yeah, and I've been in the KT house and I've watched them scrim, and Peekaboo and Score, definitely you can see the synergy between these two as a shot caller. They never stop talking.
I want to jump in here. TSM had rather low expectations. People had rather low expectations of TSM coming into this tournament. You mentioned that the first at least 8 minutes of the game was pretty solid for them. Yamato, I want to get your opinions as to whether or not they have met the expectations, whether or not this is at least promising for them to have started out with the right macro sense of the game, just needing to clean up more of their individual mistakes.
I feel like that when we jumped into this game, the first thing we saw was, of course, a pick and ban. And the Vayne, as we discussed, and Monte Cristo brought up a very valid point with the Sivir, like he should have just picked Sivir there. It would have made so much more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
What was Vayne doing there? I was like, what?
You can go first.
Yeah. So if you want to pick a losing matchup into Kog'Maw, because Vayne is going to have a very hard time in that 2v2, well, you can pick the Vayne, but if you're going to pick the Vayne, why not just pick the Sivir? Because you've already committed to losing, and at least you have wave clear. Because the big problem that TSM had is as soon as they were unable to push and TSM got the vision control back over their own jungle, okay, well then KT can group. Who is going to stop the Azir Kog'Maw combo? You can't really get onto them. There's no wave clear. Sivir would have provided that. Sivir also would have provided a way for Olaf to get into that backline. Not that Dyrus ever used his Ragnarok to actually do anything besides run away, but at least that's an option.
All right, well, that's going to do it for Game 1. We need to take a quick break, but when we return, it's another Group D clash between China's #1 LGD Gaming and XPEK's Origin. Worlds 2015 continues right after this.
either Korea or North America will end this game 3-0.
Here comes the wave. They're trying to
Plusboy
best
gets
they
after
can.
too early.
Comes with the knockup. Plusboy takes a lot of damage from the turret. Someday gets slow, gets taken down. Has to flash away. The flash. Someday gets 2 with the E. There's a Brahma coming in with the knockup from Peekaboo. KT, this could be the fight they're looking for. Here he comes. Arrow right there. Bjergsen very, very low. Kills coming in for Wild Turtle though. But a double comes in for Nagne. Can win the game for them. And the biggest chance from score. In comes Nagne. And it's going to be a bloodbath there. Here comes the Chaos Dog. KT will take down TSM Korea 3-0.